This story is titled, My Wife Cheated and Stole for Her Affair Partner, then tried to come back after he scammed her. My revenge was perfect. Hey everyone! The channel's been slowing down a bit, and I spend so much time finding these stories for you. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world and helps keep this journey going strong. Let's grow together. Now let's start the video. OP starts by saying, So, I 35 male, a dad to 2 great kids, Emma, 10 female, and Liam, 7 male. Life seemed good. Better than good, actually. I ran my own construction business, which I built from the ground up, and I thought my wife, Amber, and I had a strong marriage after over a decade together. Looking back, I should have seen the cracks forming. It started with little things, stuff you'd brush off if you weren't paying attention. Amber would zone out more often, glued to her phone. Then one morning, she looked at me over her coffee and said, You're looking kind of pale. Are you feeling okay? I shrugged it off. Just overworked, I said, pouring myself another coffee like that was going to fix everything. Running a business, being a dad, trying to juggle everything, it wears you down, you know? But deep down, I felt off. No matter how much sleep I got or how healthy I tried to eat, I felt drained all the time. Amber mentioned it again a week later. You sure you're not coming down with something? She asked, half worried, half distracted as she scrolled through her phone. That's when I finally caved and went to the doctor, figuring I'd get some vitamins or maybe a lecture about stress management. The last thing I expected was to be sitting in that sterile little office, staring at my doctor as she told me I had tested positive for chlamydia. At first, I just sat there like an idiot, trying to process what she'd said. That's not possible, I managed to get out. I've been married for over a decade. These infections can go unnoticed for a long time, she explained. You'll need to discuss this with your partner. I left that office feeling like someone had pulled the ground out from under me. Married for 11 years. 11! I'd never so much as looked at another woman in that way. So how the hell could this have happened? When I got home, Amber was sitting at the kitchen counter, sipping one of her fancy iced coffees and scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled at me, all casual, like nothing had changed. For a split second, I wondered if this was all some huge mistake, some weird mix-up at the clinic. But that feeling didn't last long. Hey, she said, how was your appointment? Fine, I lied, forcing myself to sound normal. I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. If something was going on, I needed to know the truth before I opened that can of worms. By morning, I had a plan. If there was one thing I'd learned from running a business, it was not to make decisions without facts. So I reached out to Rick, a private investigator I'd hired once for a messy contract dispute at work. I need you to look into something personal, I told him. It's about my wife. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but something's not adding up. Rick didn't ask a lot of questions. Send me everything you've got, he said. Give me a week. For the next few days, I acted like nothing was wrong. I went to work, helped the kids with their homework, and even laughed at Amber's stories about her day. But inside, I was a mess. Every time she smiled at me, I felt this knot in my stomach, like I was living with a stranger. When Rick called me a week later, I wasn't ready for what he had to say. But at the same time, I was. You were right to be suspicious, he told me. Your wife's been meeting up with someone, a guy named Derek. Hearing the name felt like a punch to the gut. Derek. Some guy I didn't even know was suddenly the center of my world. Rick didn't stop there. They've been seeing each other for a few months now. It started at the gym, but it's escalated. Hotels, dinners, even trips to your family cabin. The cabin. That was supposed to be our family's getaway, a place where we made memories with the kids. Knowing she'd taken him there felt like the ultimate betrayal. I thanked Rick and hung up, my hands shaking. I didn't confront Amber that night or the next. Instead, I focused on getting my head straight. If this guy thought he could waltz into my life and wreck it, he had another thing coming. And Amber? She had no idea who she was messing with. Rick gave me the details. Times, dates, even some pictures. Amber wasn't just meeting Derek for coffee or friendly chats. They were going full-on secret romance mode. But instead of confronting Amber, I kept my cool. I knew better than to blow up without a plan. I needed more proof, not just for my own sanity, but for what might come next. Rick didn't just stop with the basics. He dug into Derek's background, and let me tell you, this guy was a real piece of work. He wasn't just some gym trainer who'd caught Amber's eye. No, he had a history, a long one. Turns out Derek was a professional scam artist. His MO was finding women who were married, well off or both, charming them, and bleeding them dry. He'd already conned 2 women out of their savings and skipped town when things got messy. It made my stomach turn. Amber wasn't just cheating, she was getting played. And if she thought Derek cared about her beyond the money, she was dead wrong. Rick's investigation also turned up something even worse. Amber had started funneling money out of our joint accounts. Little amounts at first, ones I wouldn't notice right away. 100 here, a couple hundred there. But then the withdrawals got bigger, like she was getting desperate. She'd already drained nearly $50,000. And as if that wasn't bad enough, she'd forged my signature to start the process of selling the cabin. That was the last straw for me. I knew I needed to act. This wasn't just about catching her in the act or exposing her lies. I had to protect my kids, my business, and my future. But I couldn't go into this half-cocked. Derek was dangerous, and Amber clearly wasn't thinking straight. I called Rick again and told him to dig deeper. I want everything, I said. Every bank transaction, every meeting, every text message if you can get it. Rick didn't hesitate. Give me a couple of days, he said. While I waited, I played my part. I acted like everything was fine. I went to work, helped the kids with their school projects, and even smiled when Amber gave me her excuses about why she was coming home late or spending weekends catching up with friends. It was infuriating, but I knew I had to stay calm. If I tipped her off, she'd go into damage control mode, and I'd lose my chance to get the upper hand. When Rick called me back, he had everything I needed. Amber wasn't just in over her head with Derek. She was panicking. Derek had started pressuring her for more money, threatening to expose their affair if she didn't deliver. He had incriminating photos, texts, enough to blow up her life if he wanted to. She was scrambling to keep him happy, even at the cost of everything we'd built together. I sat down with Rick and laid out my plan. We're not just catching them, I said. We're ending this. For good. Rick nodded. You're doing the right thing, he said. But you need to be prepared. This is going to get messy. Messy didn't even begin to cover it, but I was ready. Amber and Derek had made their choices, and now it was time for me to make mine. The first thing I did was lock everything down. Joint bank accounts? Frozen. The cabin's paperwork. Pulled it from escrow and flagged the sale. My business? Changed every single password and secured all financials. Amber had no idea any of this was happening. She was too busy sneaking around and trying to keep Derek happy to notice the walls closing in. I kept playing dumb. I acted distracted, like work was overwhelming me, and I made a point of staying up late pretending to catch up on paperwork. You okay? Amber asked one night, leaning in the doorway. You've been so stressed lately. I smiled and shrugged, just trying to stay ahead of things. She nodded, looking almost sympathetic, which made me want to laugh. Here she was, playing house like nothing was wrong, while I was quietly dismantling her entire game. But I kept my cool. I knew better than to tip my hand too early. Rick kept feeding me updates. Derek, true to form, was starting to lose patience. He wanted more money, and Amber was running out of options. She'd already drained what she could from our accounts, and now she was looking into personal loans. She was in way over her head, and Derek knew it. He's getting sloppy, Rick told me during one of our late-night calls. He's pushing her harder, but he's also making mistakes. We've got enough to take him down whenever you're ready. One night, Amber told me she was meeting up with friends for dinner. I knew exactly where she was going and who she'd be with, thanks to Rick's tracking. Have fun, I said, kissing her on the cheek like nothing was wrong. Don't stay out too late. As soon as she left, I grabbed my keys and headed out. I parked a few blocks away from Derek's apartment and waited. Sure enough, Amber's car pulled up, and she went inside. I texted Rick to let him know. They're together, I wrote. Time to make the call. Rick had already tipped off the police about Derek's blackmail operation. He had enough evidence to connect Derek to multiple scams, not just the one involving Amber. Within an hour, the cops showed up. I watched from my car as they raided the apartment, dragging Derek out in cuffs. Amber came out right behind him, screaming and trying to explain herself, but the cops weren't having it. She saw me standing on the sidewalk as they loaded her into the back of a squad car. Noah! She yelled, her voice cracking. What are you doing here? Help me! I crossed my arms and shook my head. You did this to yourself, I said. You made your choices. The look on her face was a mix of shock and panic. She tried to keep shouting, but the cops slammed the door, cutting her off. I stood there for a moment, watching as the squad cars drove away. It was a strange feeling, part relief, part sadness. I wasn't celebrating. This wasn't a victory, but it was justice. The fallout came fast. Amber's arrest made the local news, especially once Derek's history came to light. People love a juicy scandal, and this was about as messy as it gets. I filed for divorce the next morning, armed with all the evidence Rick had gathered. The court didn't even hesitate. They gave me full custody of Emma and Liam, granted me control of all our shared assets, and ordered Amber to pay back every cent she'd taken. Derek? He was looking at serious jail time for fraud, blackmail, and identity theft. Seeing his mugshot plastered everywhere felt like closure. He wasn't going to ruin anyone else's life anytime soon. That night, I sat down with Emma and Liam and told them the truth. Well, the kid-friendly version of it. I didn't want them to hate their mom, but I also wasn't going to lie. Things are going to be different now, I told them. But we're going to be okay. I promise. They both nodded, and Liam crawled into my lap, his little arms wrapping around me. We're a team, he said, his voice muffled against my shirt. The days after Amber's arrest were chaotic, to say the least. Between the divorce filing, police interviews, and trying to keep my kids' lives as normal as possible, I barely had time to catch my breath. But honestly, it was a relief to finally have control over the situation. The lies were out in the open, and Amber and Derek's schemes were unraveling. I wish I could say Amber took it gracefully, but that's not how it went down. She started calling me nonstop from jail, begging for forgiveness, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Derek manipulated me, she'd cry. I didn't know what I was doing. Please, Noah, think of the kids. While the kids adjusted, Amber's legal troubles kept piling up. Thanks to Rick's thorough investigation, the police had plenty of evidence against Derek and Amber, including bank records, hotel receipts, and even some not-so-flattering text exchanges. Derek's blackmail attempts sealed the deal. He was hit with multiple charges, including fraud and extortion, and was looking at years behind bars. Amber's situation wasn't much better. While she didn't face the same level of criminal charges as Derek, her involvement in the scheme, particularly the forgery and financial theft, didn't look good in court. My divorce filing didn't help her case either. With Rick's evidence, the judge ruled entirely in my favor. Full custody of the kids, control over all marital assets, and a hefty repayment order for the money she'd taken. The day the divorce was finalized, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief mostly, but also a lingering sadness for what could have been. Amber and I had built a life together, or at least I thought we had. Letting go of that dream was harder than I expected. Even after everything she'd done, Amber didn't take the court's decision well. A week after the ruling, she showed up at the house unannounced, looking like a shell of her former self. Her hair was messy, her eyes puffy from crying, and she was clutching a folder of papers like it was her lifeline. Noah, please, she said, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was stupid and selfish, and I don't know how to fix it, but I want to try. Please let me come home. I stared at her, trying to feel something. Anger, pity, anything. But all I felt was exhaustion. Amber, it's too late, I said quietly. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt Emma and Liam. You put them at risk for some guy who didn't even care about you. There's no coming back from that. Her lip trembled, and for a second I thought she might argue. Instead, she just nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'll pay you back, she whispered. Every penny. I promise. That's between you and the court now, I said, stepping back inside. Goodbye, Amber. As I closed the door, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was drowning. The chaos was finally over, and I could focus on what really mattered, my kids and our future. Once the dust settled, life found a rhythm, but it wasn't the life I had envisioned. Amber's choices had shattered the illusion of stability I once clung to, and I was left picking up the pieces for Emma, Liam, and myself. The kids and I were healing, slowly but surely, but Amber wasn't done trying to claw her way back into our lives. Her calls started again, escalating from tearful voicemails to full-on threats. If you think you can keep the kids away from me, you're wrong, she yelled in one particularly nasty message. They're my children too, Noah. That might have been true biologically, but Amber had abandoned any claim to being a real parent the moment she chose Derek over her family. The court had already ruled against her for good reason. Her neglect, financial deceit, and utter lack of accountability made her unfit. But Amber being Amber, she wasn't about to take no for an answer. One Friday night, while I was watching a movie with Emma and Liam, there was a pounding at the front door. My stomach dropped. I knew it wasn't a neighbor. When I opened the door, there she was. Amber stood on the porch, hair disheveled, her makeup smeared like she'd been crying or drinking. Noah, let me in, she slurred, trying to push past me. I need to see my kids. They're asleep, I lied, standing firm. You need to leave. Her face twisted into a sneer. You can't keep them from me. I'm their mother. You're the woman who tried to sell their childhood home to fund her affair. I shot back, my voice low and cold. You're the one who stole from them. And me. So don't stand here and act like you care about anyone but yourself. Amber's expression shifted, her drunken bravado faltering for a moment. But then, like clockwork, she started crying, the tears spilling as she leaned against the doorframe. I made mistakes, Noah, she sobbed. But I love you. I love us. Please, let me come home. We can fix this. There it was. The same manipulative play she'd been running for months, banking on my sympathy to weasel her way back in. But I wasn't falling for it this time. Not after everything she'd done. Amber, you don't love me, I said, stepping back and pulling the door with me. You loved the life I gave you. The comfort, the money, the stability. But you threw all of that away. And now you're reaping what you sowed. Her tears turned to anger in an instant. You think you're better than me? She screamed, slamming her hand against the door. You're nothing without me. You wouldn't even have this house, this life if it weren't for me. Get off my property before I call the cops, I said, my tone deadly calm. This is your last warning. She staggered backward, her expression a mixture of rage and desperation. You're going to regret this, Noah, she hissed. Mark my words. Good night, Amber, I said, and shut the door in her face. I waited until I heard her car start and peel away before letting myself breathe. The next morning, I explained the situation to Emma and Liam. Your mom came by last night, I said gently. She wanted to see you, but I told her it wasn't a good time. Is she okay? Emma asked, frowning. I hesitated, then decided honesty was best. She's struggling right now, I said. She made some bad choices, and it's going to take her a while to figure things out, but we're going to be okay. We're strong, remember? Emma nodded, her lips pressed together. We don't need her, she said quietly. She just makes things worse. Her words cut deeper than she knew, but I didn't argue. Liam, meanwhile, didn't even ask about Amber. He just climbed into my lap, clutching his stuffed dinosaur like nothing had happened. Amber tried a few more stunts in the weeks that followed, showing up at Liam's soccer game uninvited, sending letters filled with fake apologies and promises she had no intention of keeping. Each time I shut her down. I had spent years cleaning up her messes, covering for her lies, and hoping she'd change. But I was done. She didn't deserve another chance to destroy the life I was rebuilding. Eventually, her efforts fizzled out. Whether she got tired of being ignored or moved on to her next victim, I didn't care. My focus was on Emma and Liam, giving them the stability they deserved, and making sure they knew they were loved. Amber became a distant memory, a shadow of a life we'd left behind. And though I would always carry the scars of her betrayal, I refused to let them define me, or my kids. Update. Hey Reddit, back with another update because Amber has managed to outdo herself yet again. It's been a while since the Derek disaster, and life has been solid for me and the kids. Emma's thriving as a soccer star. Liam's still my little Lego architect, and we've built a life with peace and stability. But of course, Amber can't let us have that without one last cringe-worthy comeback attempt. Out of the blue, Amber lawyered up and filed to modify custody. Why? Because she suddenly decided she's rehabilitated and wants to play mommy again. The court absolutely roasted her. Between her criminal history, forgery and theft, and Rick's evidence of her shady financial moves, she didn't stand a chance. Petition denied. Game over. Before that custody stunt got shut down, Amber tried a few surprise visits to make it look like she cared. One time, she showed up at Liam's soccer game uninvited, yelling from the sidelines like she was team mom or something. The other parents were like, "Who is this lady?" Liam barely even acknowledged her. Another time, she cornered Emma after school and tried to guilt trip her with tears and promises to make things right. Emma shut her down like a pro, told her to stop lying, and walked away. That kid is a rock star. After the custody denial, Amber decided to pull the pity card. She started calling me nonstop, leaving these wild voicemails about how she made mistakes and how we should forgive her for the kids' sake. The cherry on top? She showed on my porch one night, demanding to see the kids. She screamed about how I was poisoning them against her, and then flipped to sobbing about how she missed our family. I told her to leave before I called the cops. That was the last time she tried pulling that stunt. Meanwhile, the kids and I are doing better than ever. We've turned the house into our home. Fresh paint, new furniture, and a trampoline the kids saved up for. Max, our golden retriever, keeps us all busy and happy. Emma's winning soccer tournaments, Liam's building insane Lego worlds, and we're planning a big Grand Canyon trip next summer. Life feels lighter, calmer, and finally ours. Amber? She's a distant memory at this point. The kids barely mention her, and I'm not about to push it. If she wants to be a mom someday, she has to prove it. Not just with words, but with actions. So far, she's only proven she's good at making bad decisions. Anyway, that's where we're at. Amber can keep spiraling, but me and the kids? We're moving forward. One step, one Lego tower, and one soccer goal at a time. Update 2: Hey Reddit, it's been a few months since my last update, and while life for me and the kids has been great, Amber's antics haven't completely faded. But I'll get to that. Out of nowhere, Amber popped up again, trying a new angle. She reached out to me directly, big mistake, and claimed she had turned over a new leaf after attending some sketchy-sounding healing retreat. She said she wanted to make amends and start fresh as co-parents. This might have been almost believable if she hadn't immediately followed it up by asking for money. Yes, money. Her excuse? She wanted to get back on her feet to better support the kids. Sure, Amber. I didn't engage. My lawyer did. Amber tried filing another custody modification, claiming she had changed and deserved partial custody. Her pitch? Bunch of dubious character references from people who probably didn't know the full story. My lawyer, Rick's rock-solid evidence, and Amber's criminal record made quick work of her case. The court wasn't having it. The judge shut her down again, emphasizing the need for stability in the kids' lives, which Amber has consistently proven she can't provide. Here's where things get even messier. Turns out, Amber's back to her old ways. Rick, yes, he's still my go-to PI, uncovered that she's involved with yet another shady character, this time a wannabe entrepreneur who's already been sued for fraud twice. Amber seems to have a type. While this doesn't directly impact me and the kids, it's clear she's still chasing the same toxic cycle that got her into trouble in the first place. Emma and Liam are handling everything like champs. Amber has tried reaching out a few times. Letters, random social media messages, even sending Liam a birthday card with cash in it, which he immediately handed to me saying, I don't want it. Emma is especially protective of Liam and makes it clear she doesn't trust her mom. The last time Amber tried to guilt-trip Emma, my 12-year-old looked her dead in the eye and said, "You only care when it's convenient for you." I've never been prouder. The kids and I have officially moved forward. We've turned our house into a true sanctuary. Emma picked out a new paint color for her room. Purple, of course. And Liam's Lego empire now includes a theme park. We've also started a family tradition of Sunday hikes with Max, which the kids love. Next summer, we're still planning our Grand Canyon trip, and I'm working on surprising them with tickets to Disneyland too. Amber's influence has become nothing more than background noise. She occasionally pops up with her drama, but we're unfazed. My focus is on my kids and giving them the life they deserve, one free of lies, chaos, and betrayal. So, to anyone out there dealing with a similar situation, remember this. You can't control someone else's choices, but you can control how you respond to them. For me, that meant choosing peace, stability, and unconditional love for my kids. Amber can keep spiraling, but we're building something real, something she'll never touch again. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey, Reddit. Here's to brighter days ahead.